My name is Tony Nemia. I'm an LMFT and an LPC, and I'm currently the executive director for the Center for Child and Family Development, school-based family counseling. The center has been in existence actually since the mid-1980s, and it's gone through some obvious evolutionary developments considering the times. Currently, our population is primarily Latinx, and we're serving Roman Catholic and Christian schools in San Francisco. And the reason for that particular focus is because the federal government, in the form of Title I, which is an entitlement grant, has made funds available for under-resourced children and families in private schools. So I'm going to explain a little bit about the private schools where we go. Private school has a connotation, and it often is associated with affluence, ski week. I'll even go so far as to say big fancy cars lining up to pick up kiddos. And that's not our scenario at all. The eligibility for Title I is really based on factors like zip code, eligibility for free and reduced lunch. The majority of our students and families are on scholarship at these schools. And if you think about the likelihood of anyone being able to seek private practice therapy in the community, the market prices out an awful lot of people. So our population wouldn't be seeking private practice, and they probably wouldn't be utilizing community behavioral health. At the same time, having services provided on-site at a school is a really user-friendly offering, and there is no charge to families. And so it's a very much a service organization. I realize that in the midst of the pandemic, we're not actually on the school site, and I'd like to be able to talk about what that looks like for fall of 2021. And I have to acknowledge it's as much of a guess now for us as it might be for anybody else. What I can say is that until we're assured that it is safe to be on campus, none of our trainees and associates will be providing anything but telehealth. And we're very firm in that commitment. We see ourselves as a social justice focused agency. And within our mission statement, we really make it very clear that we are come one, come all. And I know that that tends to be a very public kind of phrase. And even though we are serving private schools, that message prevails to all of our students and families, which is come one, come all. This is a welcome place. This is a safe place. And we will start where you are. It's a robust traineeship. It's a robust internship. The expectation is that given the amount of supervision that we provide, 1 hour of individual and 2 hours of group, that allows a grad student to count up to 10 face-to-face hours. And we're looking for that number. We're not saying up to, we're saying 10, and we expect a gradual acquisition of clients to that number. 1 hour of individual, 2 of group is mandated. There is also a required monthly training on Saturdays It's usually held from 10 to 2, and quite an array of topics get discussed, presented in kind of a didactic, interactive, and experiential format. I'm going to qualify again once because of the pandemic that some of what we would have routinely done, for example, Sandtray, if we were not operating remotely, we're not doing, because we don't have the bandwidth to make sure that every family has a Sandtray in the household. However, what we've had to emphasize in our training includes an awful lot of telehealth and how to be an engaging and perhaps entertaining therapist, especially with the wee ones, who very likely disappear on you right in the middle of the session. So I'm speaking realistically in the sense that we have learned very quickly all of the exceptions to the rule about doing telehealth. And our agency is very flexible and understanding of the dilemmas that everybody faces. Typically, clients are referred by teachers, by families, by the administration. And then we have self-referrals, which is absolutely the most adorable thing in the world. We also have clients who have received services and are recommended for continuation. The important thing to remember, however, is that because of our funding source, Title I, we are mandated to work off of a particular roster of students. It doesn't mean that everyone is mandated on that roster. It means that everyone on the roster has the opportunity. Heaven forbid something comes up in the way of a crisis with a non-Title I student. Our commitment, largely through staff, is to try and help the school find resources when we can't provide them. Again, with transparency, many people come with a desire to do groups. So the pandemic is a factor here in that configuring a group has become more difficult. But even if we were in person, we certainly allow for groups. And if you think about school-based mental health, there's an economic factor around groups. It's very cost effective. Schools tend to like service for more than individuals. And I also want to add that configuring a group is pretty labor intensive, which actually leads me to a kind of overall time commitment that I think I should mention. If you look at how many hours a trainee could be committing overall to include all aspects of our placement, that can look something like 18 to 21 hours a week. And I think that that speaks to how robust our placement is. Well, the training is 4 hours per month, mandatory, and we bring in outside presenters. So for example, we partner with an organization in San Francisco known as Safe and Sound. They are a child abuse prevention organization working in concert with actually Child Protective Services. There's a 4-hour training on that. Our orientation, which takes place usually toward mid to late August, is also a training of sorts in which we really get people focused on what is this beast called school-based family counseling. once we have those pieces anchored, we managed to cover topics like adverse childhood experiences, the work of Dr. Nadine Burke-Harris. We look at trauma-informed schools and what that means to a child's development. We do a fair amount of play and expressive arts therapy. And that's one of the great things about CIIS, is that for so long, your institution has held the belief, and I think walked the walk, that there are many ways to do therapy and that talk therapy is not the only way. So we're always looking to reach populations which were not historically touted as being good therapy clients. And that has to do with our social justice mission, that we believe there's something for everybody in the self-exploration process. So what we do is try to tailor the Saturday trainings to that. We've got an upcoming one this Saturday in which we're going to look at a movement called Project Brain Heart. And it's an exciting look at whole child and what it means to be in relationship as a healing process, not just in relationship in therapy, but in all of the relationships that children can have. That pretty much gives you a general sense. I also have to say that our presenters are extremely gracious people. And unlike some agencies where there could be a roster as of now for next year, we don't have that because many of our presenters work for us at a near pro bono level, which I also think speaks to who we are and the passion that everyone has for the work that we do. Flexibility, a sense of humor, and a personal attitude of humility. We really prefer someone to say, I don't know what I'm doing in supervision, as opposed to spinning a yarn about how much is being done or how competent someone is. It's embedded in our identity as a training institute. This is, for many people, a first year boots on the ground experience. And we're offering the commitment to teach. And not all agencies do that. So for example, we do teach note-taking. We do teach how to do an initial case assessment in real life, as opposed to what gets offered in an academic setting, which is extremely important for professional development, but needs something to be offsetting in a real life experience. That's it for that one. Well, unlike in an agency where there is an organizational structure of people who are actually physically in the building, although the pandemic undoes some of that too, we try to place 2 trainees in each one of our schools, but they're not there necessarily as partners. It's a time issue to try and cover as many days in the week as possible. And an independent spirit has to emerge. I don't mean independent in the sense that we're not there for support. We're an extremely supportive agency. But if one is an extreme introvert, that is going to be a particularly challenging style. And it has to do with relationship building. Our agency works not just based on the relationships that we build with children and families, but it's also on the concept of a system. I mean, we have family systems in our orientation, and we also have the school system. And these kids are spending an awful lot of time in school. So we really want to develop relationships with staff, not in breach of confidentiality, but in support of what a school can be offering in the face of whatever a child is encountering outside of school.
To know.
Bring your sense of humor. Children are just so spontaneous and so fresh. And yes, there is a very challenging side to doing work with children. The pathos is really heartbreaking. However, we're always looking at where children already are emerging with resilience. We're also looking at how we can develop resilience. And most of our trainees, I think, end our placement and say, I've had such moments. And if you can collect these moments that have somehow touched the heart, they last for a long time. The other thing I would like to add is that we see ourselves as service and all that comes with that. And having that at the core, as a core value, we also select people who have a similar ethic. It would be very hard to join with an organization with a social justice mission if in fact one didn't hold some of those values. Now, if someone comes minus the values because there hasn't been an opportunity to learn, we're there to expand that knowledge. But I think one's head and heart has to come with any trainee who's going to do a placement with us. What we feel we promise is a good foundation level so that when folks enter a new placement, that person's going to feel confident, that we've given them the kinds of things that ought to be given in a placement. We're not a medical model, and yet we pay attention to clinical issues and some of the things that a medical model might bring to bear. So I think we're rich in what we offer. And we really love our trainees and associates.